Hi everyone, another weekend. Still stuck in the garage, no skydiving, too bloody cold, so doing a bit of work on the Hunter. And yeah, I'm going to get stuck back into the trail bike in the next week and a bit. I will have, not this coming Tuesday, but Tuesday after, I've got that day off. So I'm going to go down and get all the paint mixed for the bike, which is good, because unfortunately they only do paint matching during the week. There's no one there to do it on the weekend, so I've got to do it during the week. So I'm going to take that opportunity on the Tuesday to go get the paint mixed up for the XR, YZ/XR. And yeah, a couple of other things that's happened is my frustration levels just grew to the point where I thought, you know what, fuck those back shockers, buy something else. And I think I mentioned there was a place in Queensland, Jap motorbike or motorcycle spares or something. They're an eBay seller, fantastic, really good correspondence with the guys. They didn't actually have a set of rear shocks in for a YZ80D, and the YZ80D was the odd one out. It was like that transition model from going from dual shock rear end to a single monoshock. And they decided to put 14mm pins on the D, and all the previous models before that had been 10mm. So they did a little bit of hunting around and went through the catalogues, and they found that the only shock that would suit in lengthwise was off an RM100, late 70s model. But the problem was it had a 10mm eye. Now, in the beginning, the guys didn't mention that they could actually change the eye diameter for me. So I continued to keep looking for a set of shocks with a 14mm eye, and that were 365mm long. And I happened to find a set in their eBay store. But these were off more of a road bike. They were still 5-position adjustment, 365mm long with a 14mm eye. I thought, great, they'll bolt straight on. You know, I'm not going to be taking this thing off ramps and stuff. I'm not circuit racing this thing or anything. I thought they'll be fine. And I contacted them again, just to advise them that I'd actually found something with the dimensions of a YZ80D. And they said, we suggest that probably using the RM100 shocks would be better. And I said, I can't use them because they've got a 10mm eye or diameter opening. And they said, no, we can change that for you. We can change that up to 14mm, no problem. So I went and bought a set of RM100 with the modified eye for, I think it was $93. And I should have them next week. So got a new set of shocks. Not going to have to modify the old ones, which is fantastic. But it still gives me a spare, because one of the shocks is the correct shock for the bike. So it is long enough, but I doubt I'm ever going to need a spare. But yeah, I've got them anyway. So I haven't done any more on the bike itself. Yeah, as you can see, it's still sitting there. Tank's still on, and I didn't bother taking the tank off. I just thought I'd leave it, and hopefully with, as I mentioned, there's the strap that fastens to the frame and then pulls up onto a bolt that's on the tank to hold the rear of the tank down. I'm hoping that with it just sitting there over a couple of weeks, it's going to make its own indent into the foam, so that when I actually take the seat off again and the tank off again, it's going to give me, it's going to have left a pattern in the seat. And then what I can do is I can just take out the bit of foam where the pattern's been left, and then everything will fit up really nice. I won't have these, like I said, these little rabbit ears, whatever you want to call them. The front of the seat will start to sit flat the way I actually trimmed it. So yeah, haven't done anything else on the trail bike, but lots of good things are happening with it. So yeah, I'm working on the Hunter this weekend. I'm going to try and, let's say I'm going to try and finish it up to the stage where all I need to do is get the front and rear fenders painted, and that's it. As I explained in the last video, I bought the Bobber rear fender, and I'm actually in the process today of mounting this up and making some brackets. Now, I combed YouTube for ideas for mounting, and seen a few nice little tricks that guys have used on there for being able to space the fender so that it's not going to scrape on the tyre and da-da-da-da-da. And although they're doing these modifications on Viragos and other sorts of bikes like that, or Harleys, there's nothing on Hunters, so it's sort of it's make it up as I go. But one bonus that really worked out well on the Hunter, which most of the bikes I've seen on YouTube don't have, is where this rear splash tray fastened into the back, which was in this section. It has a bracket already secured to the frame. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this with the torch on there, but there was already a bracket there with nuts welded onto it, and so all I did was I just tapped the corners on each side to resemble the shape of the fender, and I just used the bolts that came out of that splash cover, and I can get my hand up inside there and I just put the bolts back in. So I have a bottom mounting position. I haven't had to do any work really on that bottom part of the fender, but I would advise, guys, that if you're going to drill holes, these are actually 6mm bolt, use a 7mm drill bit. You will need a little bit of adjustment because obviously trying to get that bracket the same shape as the fender is a little hard. You don't have a lot of room here to get in. I sort of used sort of a hammer and a screwdriver to sort of knock the ends round a little bit, because there's not a lot of room. Even when I had the fender off, I was able to get in here with a pair of long nose pliers to just try and bend it, and I had to not only bend it round, but I also had to sort of roll it at the top as well to try and suit the fender. It's not a hard job, but having that 1mm extra in the hole diameter definitely allows for some adjustment, which is good. I've seen the way they make the top clamps for most of the other bikes. They're basically say take a piece of tubing like this, and what they do is they cut it in half and they weld a square plate on it or a bracket that will bolt to the fender, and then they put the two halves of the tube over this bar and clamp those together, so it's like a clamshell type thing. But again, I'm very lucky because I've got, if you can see here, I've got this bracket from the splash shield, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bracket that comes off this bracket and bolts into this fender as well. But with what I'll do, actually, I won't, I'm trying to get my words out today. I won't actually have this, I don't think at this stage, as a bolt-on part, because I can't get my hand up under the fender here. What I would need to do is unbolt it. To take it off, I'd need to unbolt it from here, and then slide it out. And if I wanted to take that bracket off the fender, then I could then unbolt it from underneath the guard. But if you know, I don't see the bracket bending or needing to come off. So, you know, I could spot that on. That could be a permanent fixture on the actual fender, but it still unbolts from the frame here. So I've got to have a little bit of a look at that. I think it wouldn't hurt in the mock-up stage to have it bolted on, and then I'll use really tiny bolts. I don't know, 2 mil or something like that. So if I need to plug weld the bracket on, I can just take the bolts out, and I've already got a pre-drilled hole there to just plug weld it. So yeah, one of the other things that I saw on YouTube when guys were setting up their bikes is they got an old towel, and they just doubled it over and laid it across the wheel, and that gave them perfect spacing underneath the wheel all the way along. So yeah, if you guys are modifying a Hunter, and trust me, I'm no expert on this, I'm learning, and I'm learning on all the videos that I do, so we're taking the journey together. But yeah, other people have suggested this. I've seen other people put blocks of wood under there and actually tape the blocks of wood to the wheel, but I just thought the towel was a much better idea. It's so simple. There's no mucking around. It'll sit nice and flat too. It'll give you the thickness you need, which is perfect. Gives you that just a couple of mil, which is ample. So yeah, I don't need to worry about making brackets to come off here and fasten it there, although that would be an alternative. You know, I could make something that clamped around there and went into this hole, but you know, I want to, as I probably mentioned, you know, I want to like thin this fender out a little bit. I want to make it look a little bit more low profile and less bulky on the sides. So I'm going to take some out here. I've just been experimenting with a whiteboard marker just to see what patterns I like and what I don't like. And but the one thing I have noticed is that on a lot of bobbers, you won't get the guard perfectly in line with the actual outside diameter of the rim. You will sometimes tend to get a bit of tyre showing here, and up here you tend to get a little bit of tyre showing, but not as much as down the bottom here, unless it was specifically built as a bobber from the factory, and then they've obviously built it to suit the bike. Yeah, so that's where we're at with the fender at the moment, and I've only done this in the last half an hour. So yeah, I had my exhaust tips or new mufflers turn up this week, so I haven't even trialed these on, so they're going to go on the bike. Try and do this underhand so you can get a bit better idea of what it looks like. So yeah, I've got to try and get this set up somehow. A lot of bracketry on this, so I shouldn't have any issues with it. One other thing that I ended up scoring is, as you can see, that's the rear end of the Spider. I've left the indicators intact, and I was going to use the other set that I had. I had another set, front and rear, same style as this, but with smoke lenses, and I was going to use the smoke lenses on the back here. But I bought these set of indicators about a year ago, and I bought these from my Studebaker as the rear indicators. Now, you can still get these on eBay, so there's no problem. But the the thing that worked out beautiful was that the thread here in the frame happens to be the same thread on the shaft of these indicators. This is screwed right in, and it's got a backing nut on it. I haven't tightened anything up yet because I need to yeah, obviously remove things and align things and whatever. So I've just put them in. I got all excited the other night and decided to put both in just to see what it looked like. But yeah, they work good, and these ones actually came with 3 different lenses. So you got the smoke lens, the clear lens, and the amber lens. So I can change those out to clear to match the front lenses, which would be good. Or I could leave them black. They sort of look really cool black, but if I do, what I'm going to do is, that's the little toolbox there that I've pulled out of this section. What I will do is I'll always keep in a little Ziploc bag, I'll always keep the clear indicators and a little screwdriver, a little Phillips head screwdriver in here. So if ever the coppers pull me over and say they're unroadworthy because they're tinted, I can change those lenses then and there on the spot. And I'll probably surprise the hell out of them that I've actually got them with me on the bike. So yeah, so they work out beautiful. I've set the saddle seat on here, and my legs don't hit the tips of these at all, which is great. The electrical components you see in here are part of the alarm system on the bike. They were actually mounted to that rear splash panel. As you can see, there's the adhesive, so that the splash panel would have went in like that. And they were mounted to that. So obviously this has been taken out now, and I had to remove them. So what I'm going to do is, inside this little toolbox, I'm going to mount the little speaker, or yeah, I suppose it's a speaker, and the alarm module. Going to mount all that in there so it's sort of all waterproof, and it'll clean up underneath here a little bit more. Now I only had one bolt coming up through this elongated hole here to fasten that toolbox in, and that's why I was moving around. So I found another screw this morning, which is great. It goes in. So yeah, I'm finding all these little bits and pieces that are missing, and I'm slowly replacing them all. I'm not sure if I pointed this out in the last video, but I got my folding foot pegs this week, so they're all nice and clean. It looks like it's I don't know if it's out. I think it's steel, but it's like I don't know, factory silver paint or something. But yeah, they all fold up nice, so that makes this legal. The jury's still out on this, because half the people I've spoken to in the bike world have said, well, if it came out with a fixed peg, then that's roadworthy. But then I've had other people say, well, you know, if you get pulled over by the coppers, they're going to say that it's unroadworthy because they're not folding, and you're going to spend half an hour arguing with them, and they'll still write you the fine anyway, and then you'll be forced to change them unless you can get documentation from Hunter to verify that that is actually a standard, that the non-folding foot pegs are actually a standard part of equipment on the bike. But then again, that might have been applicable in 2008, but not applicable in 2018, where you would need to change the foot pegs anyway. So I thought, rather than just have to go through all the bullshit, if I do get pulled over, just put a set of folding pegs on it. Cost me $70 for the 2 pegs. You know, another thing I didn't expect to have to spend money on, but you know, I'm glad I've got them. They look nice. They're new, of course. They're neat, and yeah, I can see the benefits of it, of a folding foot peg. You know, if you accidentally lay this thing down on the road, you don't want this biting into the bitumen and flipping the bike over and onto you. So at least if that folds up, you got something for it to skid on where it won't bite in. Well, that's a theory anyway. So let me see, what else have we got? I'm still struggling with trying to find a way to mount this, guys. I really love more people to watch my videos, but you know, I only have 11 subscribers over 4 years, so you know, I'm obviously doing something wrong, and no one's telling me what I'm doing wrong. So but yeah, if anybody's got any suggestions on this, on how to mount that to this Hunter frame, remembering that that adjuster's in the way, so I can't put it behind the bolt, please send something through. I do have something in mind, as I mentioned, getting a piece of tube, only a short piece of tube, welding a washer to the back of it, which can slip in behind the bolt. The tube will still give you access to the nut, but the tube will need to be threaded on the outside, so it'll have like a hexagon nut that'll screw on. Then that will slide onto the shaft, and then you'll have another hexagon nut on this side, and then you just tighten the nuts up against that, and that will hold it in place. But I've got to make that. That's the only way I can think to mount that. I don't want to drill the swing arm. I don't like drilling holes in things that are structural. If they're an add-on, you can, but you know, this is the chain guards. Although it's steel, it's way too flimsy to do anything with. You know, obviously you can't mount it off here. There's no other real spot to mount it, so it's got to come off this back axle. So I'm looking for ideas for bracketry. If anybody's got any ideas, message me, and we'll exchange email addresses and whatever, and you can you shoot me through a picture or a photograph of something that you might have done with a similar license plate mount, and you had a similar swing arm set up here for the adjusters, and maybe you found a way around it. So that'd be really good. But yeah, as I said, the idea today is to get most of this done. So I'm going to stop yakking, and I'm going to start working and get it finished. Okay, I'm starting on that top bracket, so I thought I'd go out to my Aladdin's cave where I keep all my scrap metal offcuts, you know, bits and pieces. Now, as I've mentioned many times, I tend to be a little bit of a hoarder. And people don't understand why I keep certain things, but sometimes those certain things end up becoming a lifesaver. So I just went through my bucket, and I've got lots of bracketry and stuff that's come off other stuff, and I had this. This was an old steering column hanger off the Chevy when I had the original GM steering column in there. But I got rid of the column and I kept the bracket. It's a good solid bracket that was, you know, folded in a press or brake, whatever you want to call it. It's got a nice elongated hole, so it's a handy bracket. But unfortunately, just not quite long enough. You can see the bracket here and there. It's just not quite long enough, so we just miss out. Because with those elongated holes, it would have been great for adjustment sideways. Now this, you might ask what this is. You're never going to believe it. This is actually off a office chair. You know, the ones with the, you know, hydraulic strut that you can lift up and down, and 5 caster wheels on them. This actually held the seat in place onto the base. Well, guess what? This is absolutely perfect. Now that you can see the bracket there, this is long enough. Holes aren't quite in the right spot, but that's okay. I can re-drill them. But watch this. As you can see, hopefully you can see the light's good enough. That's, you know, if I just bend that as I did with the bottom, just bend that bracket down a little bit, that mounts up perfect. And then all I got to do is cut this off, just cut it off across here, and I can either go 1 or 2 bolts in there, or just could just weld it. I could just weld it on. So this was a bit of scrap off an old office chair that nobody in their right mind would have thought that I would have used. So yeah, as I said, always said, with the Studebaker project, keep your scrap. Steel's steel. If you've got to go out and buy it, it costs you money. See, there's my steel collection. There's my buckets of bits and pieces. And I pulled it out of there. This is the seat it was off. This was the old office chair. Good old typical 1990s. And that would have bolted on. If I can see the holes. Hopefully it's not too dark in here. That bolted on here somewhere. Hang on. Excuse the camera work for a second. Hopefully not everything caves in. So yeah, there's a couple of holes there, as you can see. So the base got mounted there, but these were actually, sorry, these were for the arms. As you can see, the 3 holes there, these were for the arms. So I would have another one of these brackets in there somewhere else. Pretty heavy duty construction, this chair, for an office chair. But yeah. So I've got myself a bracket. I kept that chair because I wanted to do something funky with it. And it worked as a good mock-up too in the Studebaker. When I was first trying to set everything up, I just put a couple of big blocks of wood under there, and this was my seat. So yeah, welcome to my Aladdin's cave. Tyres and old fenders and a couple of the tyres off the that are going on the Studebaker, and the 2 that were on it. So I've got sort of half a set of each in here and half a set on the Studebaker. So yeah, this is just my junk shed, and yeah, it comes in very handy sometimes. So without having to do any welding, any fabrication, really, I got myself a bracket. All I got to do is re-drill the holes, slightly bend the bracket on the Hunter, and yeah, either bolt or weld this to the fender, and I'm done. My fender's fitted up. Then I can concentrate on getting the side profile right on it. So again, I'm going to keep moving, and I'll pick the video up when I've done a little bit of work. I'm just about to cut the bracket. I've just shown you the seat, you know, that that bracket came off. I thought I threw the base out. I didn't. I've been using it for years. I've actually got an old vise attached to it, so that you know, I don't have to use this vise and end up with all sparks and metal debris all over my my tool cabinet. So this is like my portable vise. So I don't know. I thought I'd got rid of it. It must have been another chair that I had. So yeah, it was an old vise that that the company I worked for was throwing out because it had broken off here. Still had a hole in the back, which was good enough, and had a hole here. Not that I needed to put another hole in it, but yeah, I use this for my any grinding that I'm doing, and yeah, it's all good. So I'm going to cut this now. I've marked that level with the swing arm crossbar here, which is basically almost in line with that line there, and all's good. Yeah, we'll get it cut. Okay guys, all done. Just need to get that on the linisher and just clean the edge up a little bit, and then the next step will be to drill these holes out. Now the reason I'm not drilling the holes out on the bracket on the bike is simply because I can't get a drill in there, and the mounts already have threaded nuts in it, so it's better to drill 2 new holes in there than it is to play around with that bracket. I might even be able to get away with using these and elongating the holes, so I've got a little bit of adjustment there, which would be ideal. Yeah. Oh, just on my chair thing too, my vice, portable vice chair thing, I've got to come up with a way to stop it from moving too when I'm grinding or working in it. That I haven't yet. I haven't yet come up with that. Ideally, I think I can, if I can flip over without killing myself, I might be able to, I don't know, somehow weld this. Oops, sorry guys, I might be a little bit out of focus there. I might be able to somehow take this retaining clip off and weld it up to make it rigid, but you know, it's been great. It's been great the way it's been, the way it is, and yeah. But you just find sometimes that the damn thing spins on you, and yeah. So yeah, if you're going to make one, make sure you can lock it in place. Okay. What I've done is I've measured up the bike. I measured up the bracket on the bike, and I found the center between the holes. Turns out to be a really sort of weird number, but yeah, I don't know why. Could be because I've already bent the bracket, and without bending the bracket it might have been 115, but I'm measuring 112. But if I elongate holes, it's not going to really matter. So what I've done is you can see it there, I found the center line, and then I just measured out 56 millimeters from the center line, and it's basically just put it outside this original hole in the bracket, and the same on the other side. So you know, your drill bit would need to be, I need to drill between the hole and these lines. I've just put these lines in there because that would roughly work out at a 6mm drill bit. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and center punch it right in the guts, and I'm going to drill another hole in there, so it'll give me a nice big elongated hole each side. And I've got my little die grinder bit there, which I'll just use to clean up the hole. I've actually had a little bit of a brain fade and put this in first before putting the drill bit in. So obviously I've got to take that out, put the drill bit in, drill it, and then elongate it. Okay, I've drilled the holes and I've elongated it with my little die grinder bit. I haven't cleaned it up. Like, I could stick my little rat tail file in there and give it a little bit of a clean, just to square everything up. But yeah, pretty much did what I needed to do. So let's see if we can pop this in there and give you a bit of a look at what we got. I know it's going to be very hard to see, so I'm just going to put the camera down for a sec, guys, and get this torch running, if I can. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a challenge, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay, sorry about that, but as you can see, if I don't drop this, we've got the bracket. You can see me moving the bracket. There's the bracket. The bracket's in. So we've elongated the holes. The only thing I've got to do is, if you can see the original Hunter bracket, it's on a slightly different angle to the bracket I've just drilled out. So I'm going to try and bend that a little bit. Not exactly sure how I can do it. I've already bent it towards the fender a little bit, I put a pry bar in there and I just bent it back. But that's, I've more or less got to bend it from the top here, where my finger's making that clean mark. I've got to bend it from there, and really it'd be perfect if I could get a screwdriver in there and just like tap it, which would put a crease in it, but I've got no access to it. I'd need to remove the entire swing arm, but I'll come up with something. And at the end of the day, even if I've got to put a couple of washers in behind there, no one's going to see it because the seat will be over it. The swing arm blocks it, and yeah, I can, you know, what I can do to make it easier is I might even have some spaces here. You know, I've got some brass spaces and things like that. I can just use a bit of epoxy, and epoxy them straight on there as if they were welded on. Or I can, if I can find some steel ones in there, which I'm pretty sure I have plenty of. There you go. There's some steel ones. I can just tack them on there as well. But the only problem is I lose, if I do either thing, I lose my adjustment, because obviously where you put the spacer, that's where it's going to go. So yeah, I'd be better to actually fix it to the back of this bracket. Yeah, but yeah, again, it's difficult to get in there to do anything. So yeah, well, it's not much. It's only a couple of mil, and it's more sort of like twist angle than it is, you know, depth pushing it in. So I just have to reshape it like I did with the bottom bracket, and the bottom bracket's okay. That's really good, you know. I'm happy with that. Hope you can see that. I've made no modifications to the bike whatsoever, except put just a slight little curve in that bracket. Factory bracket, factory bolts. It's clean, it's neat, it looks like it should be sitting where it's sitting. The guard's sitting level with the swing arm. All happy about that. So yeah, gonna keep moving and get to the next phase, next point. Okay, I've got that bracket mounted. As you can see, I couldn't use the original bolts on these ones because this bracket's really thick. I've had to just pull some out of my nuts and bolts can over there, off the Festiva. Thank you, Festiva. You've really helped out again. They were slightly longer. Looks like I got a little bit of a gap there, but not really. When I do lift that up, which is very minimal, there's no gap, and there's enough clearance here. I want to be able to get my hand under there, because if you ever get a rock caught between the tire and the fender, you know, you need a little bit of clearance. But you know, that's worked out beautiful. I got plenty of adjustment on it. Had to sort of tweak the bracket a little bit, sort of bend. I had to bend the outside flaps, sort of. I had to rotate them, but then also had to bend them towards the back of the bike. So I've just used that crowbar and a pair of multi-grips just to get that into place. But as you can see, there's no damage to the bike. It's just a little bit of pushing. And the beautiful thing is I got the bump stop there. Get this camera around the right way. That bump stop. So when I put the brace in, I could go in from here and just I could manipulate the bracket. So, oops. But you get the idea, guys. You can use those original brackets that held your your Spider rear end on with very little very little modification, because as I said, if I ever sell the bike, whoever I sell it to, I want to be able to offer them both the Spider setup and the bobber setup, and all they've got to do is just remove 4 bolts and that whole back fender comes off. They can unscrew these, unclip the wires, as they'll all be on, they'll all have their own plugs, and plug straight back into the Spider rear end, and then just put the 2 bolts back in here that hold that whole rear section on. There's nothing else on the frame or anything that holds that rear end on except for these 2 bolts, and this bolt here, and the one on the other side, that's actually for the seat, which I've got up there. So there's nothing to it. So now what I have to do is I actually have to, as I said, work out what I'm going to do. Am I going to spot it to here, or am I going to bolt it to here? And the only thing that worries me is whenever I've got to take it out, I would imagine I have to unbolt the bottom first, because I've got a lot more clearance, and what I'll be able to do is rotate the fender up, which should give me enough room to slip that bracket out. That's the only thing I'm a little bit afraid of, that I'm not going to get enough clearance to slip the bracket out. I can't really do anything else to experiment prior to actually committing, I guess. As I said, I could drill a hole and put a bolt in there, but I can't gain access to the bolt from here unless the back wheel's off it, and I don't really want to be dismantling the whole back end just for the sake of 1 bolt. Or the other thing that I do is I just throw a tack on there for now, try unbolting the bottom, and then see if I can slip it out. If I can't slip it out, I just grind that tack off, and I'll come up with a different way to do it. I'm just about to put a tack on this bracket. I've put the earth clamp in from here, which is great because it helps hold the fender in position. So yeah, wish me luck. Okay, I've just put a little bead on there just to make sure it doesn't snap when I take it out. I've got what I wanted, a hand's clearance under the fender. Well, it's basically only finger. I've seen guys mount these a lot lower to the tyre, but you have to remember too that tyres expand and shrink, so you need to allow a little bit of room for expansion and shrinkage. Drag cars are the perfect, like rails are the perfect example. They're basically flat, and when they do a burnout, the tyre expands and it stands really tall. These obviously aren't going to do that, but you know, you still get expansion with tyres. So you know, to have a little bit of clearance under there is good. I don't want nothing biting in, nothing catching, but it's nice and central, and it's not looking too bad from the side, and I've yet to modify it. So I'm going to keep going, guys, and we'll keep filming when I've done a bit more. Okay, I'm getting round now to, I'm not going to do any more on the fender for the moment. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to have a little bit of a play around with the battery box. I can't believe the way this bike's been put together. Like, rather than put a proper terminal clip on it, they just twisted the wire. This is an alarm system. They twisted the wire around the terminal. It's horrible. But these are the things you don't see when you go to buy the bike, you know, because you can't, you know, there's certain things you can ask. You know, can I have a look at under this cover, or can I have a look under that cover? But there's certain things you can't look at, you know. You can't go pulling battery covers off and and other things like that, you know. So, you know, it's when you come to do some work on it that you discover how badly things were done, and you know, I'm coming to discover all that stuff now. So what I've done is I'm going to run all the, as I said, I'm going to run all the box and the alarm, the speaker, all inside the box, keep it all waterproof. But I have to have some wires that come out through the side of the box. It happens that there is already a hole in the side of it, which is good, because then I don't have to drill another hole in it. It looks like somebody's had several attempts at drilling several holes in this goddamn thing. There's only meant to be 3 factory holes in here. Sorry, there might actually be a bit light, guys. Let me adjust it a little bit. As you know, I'm not going to mention it again, but yeah. Yeah, so 3 holes. Someone's put 2 holes in there. There's a hole in the back side of it. I don't know whether that is factory, because there's no bracket in there to screw anything to. But it does have a flange on it inside the box, so there's a possibility that it is a factory hole. But yeah, by not using the original holes, that's just laziness on behalf of the previous owner. So anyway, we'll get back to this. Alright, I've got to clear out some of these cables. Let's just get them out of the way. I'm not going to catch anything or pinch anything. Got another one here. There we go, get them out from around the chain. So, where are we at, guys? What I'd like to do, not liking the way that's coming around there, so I might just try and pull that one through. That might be a better way to go on this positive terminal. We'll come through the bracket. Come through the bracket. It just really annoys me when people stuff things up. You know, they don't use the right tools. Okay, I can't come through that bracket because of the way that the terminal is on the battery. It's at right angles. I could flatten it out, but I'm not going to. I'll leave it where it is. Let's have a look here. Okay, but it looks like there's one wire I can disconnect and bring around the other side. So there we go. That's actually made a bit of difference already. We'll keep everything on this side, so nothing's near the chain like it was. So now we can actually wire these 2 things back in. I'm sorry if you can't quite see. I'm going to try and get this up on here for you. See if I can get that to sit up there without falling off. Oops. Sorry guys. Sort of want to feel something that I'm doing, but I don't think I'm going to make that sit up there because it's on slippery chrome, and it wouldn't even matter if I had a tripod and still slip off. So, whoops. To do a bit of try and do a bit of editing. That's asking for a miracle. So that's all I got to do is just get it balanced. There we go. Now I'm hoping no, it's top heavy. So that might be better. Alright, here we go. we're going to try and get all this wired back in now, guys. So we'll start off with our negative, of course, because we want to ground the damn thing. So just pop him underneath there. I'm going to try and pick up that nut. There's a little nut that floats inside there. There we go. We've picked him up. And I've got to try and make sure these things are square when they go on, because I want the factory boots to be... I want the factory boots to sort of sit on properly. So I think with this alarm wire, what I'm going to do, rather than put him underneath, I'm going to put him on top, because I'll be able to follow the flat of the terminal here. It'd be really nice if, just looking at this now, if I can pass that through there. The boot's a little bit, sort of could do with replacing. It's sort of had its day, but you know, we'll get there. I'll replace the boots a bit further on down the track. At least if I get it through next time. Actually, next time, no, that'd be no good. I'll still have to pull him out to put the boot on. So now let's hope I don't damage this when I try and pull it through, which, you know what, I already have. What an idiot. But at least I'm trying to do it properly. There we go, that's better. I can straighten that out. At least I'm trying to do it properly, not like the idiot that owned the bike before me. I made an absolute mess of it. Now this will flatten out when I screw it down. So I know it looks a little bit rough, but the intention was not there to damage it. Okay, it's not picking it up, so maybe I've got to just tap that terminal down a little bit. She's a little bit bent. Now she's flat, so there's no reason she shouldn't go on now. There we go, grab the bolt. It just makes me angry that I've had to do all this work. You know, these are the things that shouldn't have been an issue. Now we're going to try and pick that nut up again. And it's a bit of a pain in the backside, actually. Just bear with me, guys. Okay, grab my old trusty pick tool. I'm just got to get him up a little bit. Just raise him up just enough to get the thread started, and then it'll take care of itself after that. There we go. Okay, it's started. Okay, she's getting tight now. Let's have a look here. Keep it nice and straight so that the boot will go on. I can see the camera's moved, sorry guys. Probably going to move a lot more. Let's see if we can get it a little bit straighter. There we go. So we'll get that boot put over it. It's not perfect, guys, but it's at least it's a little more protected than it was. Now we're going to do the this one. I don't even know if you can buy the boots for these through Hunter. You could probably, you could obviously buy them through Kawasaki or Yamaha, Suzuki, any of the big brands. You'll be able to get a set of boots for the battery terminals. But Hunter, you're very limited on the stuff that you can get out of them. So Yeah. Now I've got to go between these two wires to try and slip it up the center. There's not a lot of room on this side because being the positive side, the cables are fairly thick. So it's in there somewhere. It's not quite in, but we're getting there. Yeah, it's just really annoying when people do half the job. I hate that. Like you're putting in an alarm system on a bike. It's, you know, it's to make sure your bike doesn't get knocked off. You got to do the job. You got to do the job properly. I think this guy, he's obviously fitted it himself. I don't think a professional would have done this. Not the way it was wired in. It's absolutely shocking. You know, you don't twist wires around a battery terminal. You put the right connectors on it. It's not that difficult, you know. Now with that, to be honest, what I should have done is I should have actually run the wire through that first, and then I should have run the wire through that first, and then put the spade clip on, but I didn't. But you know, it's on now, so it's no biggie. Now, try and get this to sit right. I'm going to come back between those two cables. There we go, and then we're going to sit this one on top. Now, the next thing I've got to look for is that bolt, that second bolt, which was actually the first bolt that I had in my hand for this negative terminal. And oh, there it is. Beautiful. Okay. So we'll get him in there. So all I need to do, now that all the power supply is hooked back up, all I need to do when I hook up everything that's going to go inside this battery box is just plug it in. This one I can't do up with a screwdriver because there's a control module of some sort here, and it doesn't allow me enough clearance, so I've got to use a ratchet spanner. Come on, there we go. I can guarantee that what I've just done has taken just as long as it would have took the original owner to do what he did. Only mine's turned out a lot better, it's a lot neater, and I'm going to be able to use all the factory boots for what they were designed for. That's to cover up the terminals, keep water off them. So I've just got to manipulate them and play with them a little bit because they're so out of shape and they're perished because of this, because of how it was all put together. But you know, we're already so far ahead of where we were before. I seem to have some sort of little kink here in the wire, which isn't allowing the boot to slide. I'm trying to slide that boot along. I think I got it. I think I got it now, guys. Now sometimes they say it's easier just to start fresh and don't deal with someone else's problems, and it's so true, you know. Like, that was a struggle just to get that on, but you know what, it's on now. Both the boots are on. It's going to take, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for some of these, for these boots to settle in, because they're so used to being twisted out of position. So that's all good. Now let's have a look here. We might have to, I don't know what they've done here. You know what? Going through that bracket from behind might be a good idea. I know I said it wasn't, but it might be a good idea. I shouldn't really be stuffing around with this power cable when I've got the there's a reason why I'm going to try it this way. It's because it didn't look like the box wanted to go back in. It looks like it was restricted. So I don't think the boot's going to sit right. Okay guys, I've marked it. I've come up from underneath with the silver pen, marked the bottom of the box. So I don't know if you can see that. That's the original hole. And the little silver mark there is where it's supposed to be. Now don't ask me how this has all come to be. I've got no idea. But if I've come up through that factory bracket, it's got to be right. So I'm just going to double check it. I've got that sitting in there. That's hard all the way home. So we'll come up underneath. Oops. Here we go. This is one of those paint pens. So it should leave a nice little mark there. Okay, I'm not convinced that I'm seeing what I'm seeing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my little pick tool and go up through there. Give that a little bit of a twirl, which should mark the plastic. And we'll see how good. Yep, there we go. Now this this is a 6mm hole that I need to drill in the box. Take the screw. I just had a 5.5 in there. I thought I'd go a little bit smaller so it would be a little bit tighter, but no, that'll do. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that we've got to go through all this bullshit, but you know, we're getting there. So let's see how good I was. You know, how accurate I was. You know what, guys? I went straight in. First go. First go. And still got one of the other holes, which had a nut and bolt put through it. And that's solid compared to what it used to be. There's another hole in here that had a nut and bolt put through it, and I can still put that nut and bolt back in. But don't ask me what he's used here. It had this on it. Obviously standard nut, standard washer. I don't know why it had that big spacer on it. It shouldn't need it. If he's made the modification and done it right, he shouldn't have needed it. So again, I'm trying to see inside there, see what he's done, see how he's drilled it. It's a bloody mess. Not even that's lined up properly. There's 2 holes there, but it looks like the bolt goes between the 2 holes. Okay, I managed to get it in, but what have we got hanging out the bottom now? Okay, it's fairly long. It's fairly long. I still don't see the reason why he put that big spacer on there. If he had to put just a normal washer and a split washer on it, everything would have been alright. So I'm going to keep chatting to you while I'm doing this. I'm just going to grab a split washer, guys. There's the washers that we get. I hate bodgy people. You know, I'm no perfectionist, but if you got the chance to do it right, do it right. Jeez, you know. Let's have a look. This is about the one thing I don't have a lot of, split washers. Yeah, it looks like a nice one. Never had a lot of split washers. That one's not bad either. It's just something I've never bought, and whatever I've acquired has just been through stripping cars and stuff like that. So I think that's a good one. We'll put the slightly smaller one back in there. Alright. Move that drill out of the way. Actually, I'll need the torch on, don't I? I need it on. Let's have a look. See if we can get to this. It's in a really awkward spot too. That shouldn't be an excuse though to not do it properly. So what we can do is we can get 10mm socket on an extension bar. Where's me 10mm? Let's have a look. That's a 5/16. 11/32. Where's me 10? I've been a little bit lazy putting these things back in the right spot, but I know my 10's in here somewhere. Where are you, 10? Yeah, you know what, wherever it is, it's with the ratchet. I don't have the ratchet in here either. So most likely it's on the ratchet. Bingo, guys. It's when you know your bad habits, it's you pretty much know where you're gonna find things. So this could be a bit tricky. I've got to keep a split washer balanced on a flat nut, and then balance a flat washer on top of that. Okay, there we go. We're on already. Not bad, guys. So there was no reason for a bodgy job to be done on this. So it's tightened up now. Be nice and secure. Got that split washer on there. There we go. Let's have a look inside. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's nice and solid. Turn that off because it's blinding the hell out of me. So there we go. The battery box is all back together. We'll just try the battery box. Sorry, not battery box. The toolbox. Toolbox door on there. There you go. They lied about the weather today. They said it was going to be 10 degrees. That's why I didn't go skydiving. They lied. Wouldn't have been as cold in the air as I thought. Okay. I need a flat bladed screwdriver. Anything will do. Just turn this and make sure it all locks okay. There we go. So that's all back in, that's all solid. There we go. And if I was to what did I forget? So I forgot to run this wire through the back. That's no biggie though, guys. I can still do that. But in order to do it, I've got to cut that ring terminal off it anyway, because you can't. I don't want to open that hole up. I want to keep that hole nice and small, so no water gets in there. So that would have to come off anyway. Prior to doing that, prior to stripping the wire back, see, we're going to make mistakes. I made a mistake then, but it wasn't a critical one, luckily. Okay, now I've got to find a way in. I can see the wire too. I can see it. Might be able to come in the back here. Okay, there we go. Come round. I want to take the shortest route, obviously, because this is not an extremely long wire. Let's have a look. So, got to make sure that nothing's twisted. So that'll go in there. Let's get this excess wire out of the way. Most of this stuff on this wiring loom, I could cut this off. I don't think it doesn't do anything. They're just blank wires that go nowhere. This alarm system might have been usable on a car too. So yeah, might have been able to wire it up through something else. But okay, so what we're going to do now is unfortunately we're going to take it all apart again. So I'm just going to stop the vid here and we'll continue on later. Okay guys, I've got everything wired up, and as you can see, it works. So I'll just turn that off. So I'm still not familiar with this system. Obviously I disarmed it then with 2 clicks. Oh no, there we go. So okay, because it's sensor motion. So then if I park the bike, I think I press the red button. Let's have a look. That's it. And then what I've got to do is I've got to press the unlock button, and that will turn the alarm off. So there we go. All the wiring's neat. It'll all sit in there. I'm going to get some new adhesive 3M tape for this. Stick it all in there. As you can see, all the wiring's in there. It's all nice and neat now. It's going to be out of the water, out of the rain. I've still got, by the time I neaten all this up in here, I'm going to have enough room, as I said, for a set of indicators, indicator lenses, and a screwdriver. Like, and put a little screwdriver in there like that. You know, there's enough room. So yeah, all good. At least I didn't fuck the wiring up on that. Let's hope I don't do it on the indicators as well and the brake light. Okay guys, I've got the indicators working again. So lovely, huh? So that's all good. Just got to put all the side covers back on now, and then yeah, continue on with this rear fender. Okay, just took the bike outside and did a bit of a degrease of the whole bike, all the back end underneath, all the electrical compartment, front wheel hub, the whole lot. Took the chain cover off, gave it a clean, brought it back inside, dried it all down with the compressor and chamois. I knew that was going to start. There we go. Turn that off. So I put everything back together and decided that I was going to put the new tailpipes on. So there you go. I haven't done the other side yet, but that's a look at this side. It's a lot better than it was with those old crappy mufflers on it. One thing I've realised with this this bobber fender is that I can actually slip this out, but I have to let the tyre completely down. I don't have any other choice, but once I let the tyre down, it comes straight out. So I figure the only time you're gonna, if you're gonna be working on the fender, you're gonna be in the garage anyway, so you're gonna have access to a tyre inflator. So yeah, it's no biggie. It's like you're not going to pull the fender off on the side of the road or pull it off for the fun of it. You know, once it's on, it's on. So yeah, there's no other way I can get around it unless I do major modifications to it. And I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with this bracket. I still have to weld it on properly. So that's only still got that bead on it, but yeah, I was very happy. I'll weld that from behind, and that'll be my bracket. Bracket looks like it's off center, but that's because it's cut out here for the chain guard. But that's dead center of the fender. So yeah, all good. What else? So I got all the indicators. As I told you, the indicators work. I've got them all tightened up now. That was a real pain in the butt. I got all this wiring from the indicators bound up in there, so I've got it all looped and fastened in with a cable tie. Done a couple of little touch-up things over the last couple of days. All the screws for these top plates, I painted all them black as well, so they'd look nice, although they won't be seen. Oh, they might be. You can see them from the side here. So, so yeah, I've got to clean these plates as well. They've got a bit of film on them. What else? Oh, the amount of shit and grease and dirt and build up under the chain cover was, sorry, not the chain cover, but the sprocket cover, and I guess it is sort of part of the chain guard, isn't it? There's just so much stuff under there. All the suspension now, you can actually see the shocks, the struts. You know, they're either alloy or stainless. They look alright. actually, when you're on the right angle, you can actually see all the suspension stuff. We have got a little bit of rust here on these bolts here. There's not much I can do about it, unless I'm stripping the bike down and then I'd address it. But for now, not really. If I'm really fussed, I can just sort of mask up the canister and the rod end, and I can just paint those nuts black or silver. You'd never pick it. It's not too bad. But the bike is a hell of a lot cleaner than it was. As you can see, paint's faded here from where we had that massive fuel leak from the tank. So yeah, this is something that I can touch up at a later stage. Just throw some gloss black on it. Same with the rear swing arms here. We got a little bit of fading here, a few chip marks and stuff. So I can just clean these up. But you might be able to see in there now. See all the suspension and everything. Everything's nice and clean. Little toolbox there, all the plastic's nice and clean on it. Everything's tucked up, cable tied away. So I'm achieving what I set out to do today. Pretty happy with everything. The only thing I probably won't get done today is the number plate mount. I'm still toiling with how I'm going to do that. So we'll just, there's no hurry for that. The only other thing that's maybe worrying me, well, not so much worrying me, but what I think I might need to do is I've got a bolt here. I've had to use these chrome brackets that have come with the muffler and take off the original Hunter ones. They're the original Hunter ones, but this part here, where the bolt goes in and can slide along, on those old mufflers, that was actually fitted on the bottom, and it just sat on top of the plates, on top of the brackets, and it bolted in from underneath. This one's a little different. It's actually a side. It's been welded on the side, but they do supply you with this this hanger bracket, I guess, to use wherever you can. So I'm worried about maybe a bit of vibration, so I'm thinking that I might have to undo this bolt. Sorry if the shadow's making things dark there, but I might have to undo this bolt and maybe just take I haven't tried to pull these apart yet, but they're rubberized. They're a rubberized mount. I've got plenty of rubber mounts up there in my little stash that I can use. I'm thinking about maybe just putting one rubber mount behind here. I'll see how we go vibration wise. If it's if it's causing any dramas or noise or anything like that, I can always put a little rubber washer behind it, and that'll dampen that out. It tends to sit. It looks like it's actually kicking up here and then kicking down. There's nothing else I can do. I can't adjust it anymore. It's simply because of the way this engine pipe is shaped. Now, I could do what I did on the trail bike, and I could get my little blowtorch over there and heat up this section here, and bend it down more so that it drops the muffler, or the whatever you want to call it, exhaust tip, or yeah. So it drops it by about an inch. I think an inch would be good. I think it would make a hell of a difference. I've tried pushing down on that, but I got to be careful because I don't want to break any of the studs on the head, being an alloy head. So this might be a job to do during the week. I'll unbolt the engine pipe from here and heat all this up around here, and stick a pipe or a rod or something inside the exhaust here, and just bend it down. Just bend it down by about an inch. It's not too bad though. Having that bit of a fall on it is probably good too. in case water gets, you know, from rain and the road, water gets in there, at least it's gonna run back down the pipe. So, you know, it could be a good thing. Aesthetically, it's sort of not, but for practicality, probably is. So, again, trial and error. We'll wait and see how it goes. And, yeah, you can always alter it later on. Okay, just in the middle of process of making a seat pan cover, I think we refer to them as, just to keep all the water and stuff out with the saddle seat on. You don't see all the ugly wiring. So I've made my cardboard template. I'll round the corners here a little bit, and I've tucked it up enough under the frame so I can put some self-tapping screws, little tiny self-tapping screws into the frame, and they won't actually be seen, so they'll be hidden. I just got to lift the tank up to put them in, and the back will be held down by the seat bolts, and that'll be it. So we're slowly getting there. I'll keep plugging away and let you know how I go. I've got a little bit more together now. I've just bolted the back fender back on. I had to let the tyre down, as I said earlier, to get it to work, or to get the bracket in. Bracket's all in there now. It's all welded in. Still bolts up through the bottom as originally set up. Fender's nice and centered on the rim, on the tyre. Got my cardboard template ready to cut out tomorrow. I'm not going to do it tonight because it's very late, and don't think my neighbours would appreciate me using an angle grinder at 10 o'clock in the evening. So template's all cut out, ready to go. Seat's just sitting on there at the moment. I've just only finger tightened the bolts, but yeah, it's coming together, guys. So it's a hell of a lot further along than it was last week. So yeah, so tomorrow the job will be to make the cover for here, and it'll be trying to work out how much of this I'm going to cut out. I'm not really sure. Like, I like the gap here, the amount of tyre that's showing there. I'd like to be able to sort of do that up here, and that would eliminate these original mounting holes. So looks like there, that original mark that I put on there, I was pretty close to the mark. If you look down and sort of come off that ridge, I'll make a measurement out from that ridge to the edge of the fender there, and then what I'll do is I'll do the same thing here and measure out to there and see if it's the same, and whatever the difference is, I'll take that off, so it looks like the wheel is actually sitting central within the fender. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way it's coming up. You know, it's not, as I keep saying, it's not that $20,000 Harley chopper, but you know, it's getting there. I've settled on making that out of the pan, the cover here. I'm going to make that out of stainless steel. I think it'll just go better with the chrome. I've also come up with my way to make this. So I've got my little sketch here, which is very close to what it is. I used a texter, so out by a couple of mil, but what I'll have is a threaded tube with a washer welded to the threaded tube, and then what will happen is the axle bolt will get threaded in through the tube, through the washer and through the back wheel. And then what I'll have here is a nut, a very, very thin nut, like something that you would have on a bicycle crankshaft. So the final nut that you put on the crankshaft of a bike, and then I'll have another one here, and my piece will get sandwiched basically in there like that, between the two nuts. I've got to come out, that pipe has to be 70 millimeters long to do what I need to do to get clearance around the adjusters. But you know, I've got a plan now, so I'm going to run with that. It seems like it'll work. I've made something similar to that in the past for something else, not for a bike, so I'm quite confident it'll work. The pipe diameter I need, internal diameter, is 25 mil, or an inch, it doesn't matter, whatever I can get hold of. The pipe's got to be 70 millimeters long. I'll need one washer with a 25 millimeter internal diameter, and I'll need obviously 2 of the flattest nuts I can find. and that'll fix our little spacing problem here. So the only thing that will you'll still be able to get a socket on an extension bar inside the tube onto the head here, because the head is actually smaller than the axle itself, so you can still tighten the back rim, the back axle. So it should work out okay. And all I'll do is, in the end of the tube, I'll just put a plug in there. It'll look neat. So yeah, I've got probably just enough wire, but I've got the wire coming off the back of the number plate as well, so I can route this all neatly here, so it's not seen. And yeah, it should look good. I'll try and route it behind the swing arm, between the swing arm and the chain guard, as much as I can, to try and hide it. So yeah, I don't know. I'll work a way out. I'll work a way out to do it. Just a couple of little cable ties or something on there. I've got some nice little black ones that'll go around there. I only need sort of one up here, and I'll put that on where the swing arm's welded, so it doesn't really stand out much. And then the other one I'll put right down here where the other weld spot is. But I'm pretty happy with the progress today, guys. I haven't stopped all day. I haven't really worked hard either, but it's you know, it's coming along. It's coming along. So I'm going to call it a night and go in and get something to eat.